In this video, we'll delve into the events that occurred in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, USA, in August 2018. On August 22nd, at 9:15 p.m., the state police received a call asking them to check the condition of 36-year-old Christina Carlin Craft, an ex-model of Playboy magazine. Her partner discovered something strange when he checked the security system in their apartment. Moreover, Christina wasn't answering phone calls and messages. Upon arrival, the police found Christina covered with a blanket in her bed. Christina Rose Carlin Craft was born on November 11, 1983, on the south coast of New Jersey, in the family of Stuart Craft and Dawn Ann Carlin. She always liked being photographed or videotaped. It ultimately determined her life path. After graduating from high school in Linwood in 2000, Christina worked as a waitress in southern New Jersey and at the Borgata Hotel, Casino and Spa in Atlantic City for several years. But Christina's dream was to become a model, and her perseverance brought results. She eventually achieved some success in this area. In her promo, she wrote that she loves photo shoots in exquisite underwear and swimwear. Eva Waltz, Christina's friend, whom she met on a 3-day shoot for Maxim magazine, said, "She was a sweet and charismatic girl, very beautiful, with a wonderful sense of humor. She had dark hair and blue eyes. She was the epitome of a fashion model. Christina always dreamed of being on the cover of Playboy." While working as a waitress at the Borgata Casino in 2003, Christina met Alex Ciccatelli. Soon after, they started dating. Alex has always supported Christina in everything she has planned and has never been against her career. After a long-term relationship, they announced their engagement. Alex and Christina were together until the latter's death. Christina still managed to fulfill her dream. She became Cyber Girl of the Month for May 2009 and got invited to the Playboy Mansion. This success allowed her to attend parties at the mansion and get a pass into the world of glamour. It was the peak of her career, and her ambitions were higher than ever, especially since she met with Hugh Hefner, whose attention was not so easy to attract. But despite all this, Christina failed to become a model for Playboy magazine. Thousands of girls send their photos there, but only one eventually becomes a model. There are a lot of reasons why Christina didn't become the chosen one. At that time, she was already 26, meaning she was not quite the right age for this magazine. She was considered a mature model rather than a young one. It shook her confidence, but she kept working anyway. Her long list of modeling jobs included such companies as Redken, Maxim, Victoria's Secret, Vanity Fair, and many others. But she wanted to reach new heights in her career, so she moved to New York with her boyfriend, Alex. However, not all brands were eager to collaborate with the model, who appeared in the explicit photo shoot. After appearing in Playboy, Christina's career started going downhill, eventually ending altogether. It undoubtedly wasn't easy for her to overcome this difficult moment in her life, but she always felt Alex's support. Christina was known not only for her graceful appearance and alluring beauty, but also for her scandalous nature. In 2016, she made a scene with the staff of The Smith, one of New York's restaurants. After this, the New York Post published several articles about the incident. That's what those articles said. According to law enforcement sources and court papers, Christina Carlin Craft, 34, and a male pal were dining at The Smith on March 6th, when an argument between them and manager Sergei Anakin broke out over the bill. The guy didn't want to pay. The manager interceded, a source said. She was intoxicated, and she claimed that the manager pushed her, but there was video of the incident that showed she was lying. She allegedly hit Anakin in the neck at around 10 p.m., causing redness and substantial pain, the criminal complaint says. Christina was charged with misdemeanor assault, attempted assault, and harassment. Subsequently, the DA offered her a deal, and the charges were dropped, with the condition that she must stay out of trouble for 6 months. The DA offered a reasonable deal, and we hopped on it, her lawyer said. Christina has always liked Philadelphia, especially Ardmore, where, according to her, she always felt safe. With this in mind, Alex bought her an apartment in Ardmore and moved to Pennsylvania with her in 2018. but Ardmore wasn't as safe a place as Christina had imagined. On August 18, 2018, she contacted the police, reporting that someone had robbed her. Christina spent the evening in one of the bars in Philadelphia. The next thing she remembered was the morning of the next day when she barely woke up and decided that someone had drugged her with illegal substances. She didn't remember how she got home or if anyone was with her. Alex was on a business trip at the time. She didn't feel safe and kept saying she was worried. During the investigation of this case, the police received CCTV footage that showed a car driving up to Christina's apartment at about 3 a.m. Christina was unconscious in the back seat when the driver took the keys out of her purse and then entered her home and stole more than $50,000 worth of jewelry, designer handbags, pillows, designer sunglasses, a credit card, and personal documents belonging to Kraft. The perpetrator was gone for about an hour and a half before returning to the car and helping Christina enter her apartment. After opening the door, he left her in the hallway, put the keys in her purse, and drove away. With the help of a credit card statement, the police quickly figured out the perpetrator's identity. The driver who robbed her that night was Andre Melton, a man who already had a criminal past. Melton was driving a rented 2018 Kia Sorento with a Virginia license plate. According to witnesses whom the police found, the same car was near Christina's house on August 17th. It was confirmed by the police thanks to special software for license plate recognition. While the police were trying to find Andre Melton and return Christina's stolen belongings, a much more severe crime occurred. Just 4 days later, on August 22, 2018, the police received a call from Alex Ciccatelli asking them to check on his girlfriend, Christina Carlin Kraft. He was already on his way home and couldn't contact Christina. She wasn't answering any calls or texts. When he arrived home, it turned out that the apartment door was locked from the inside. He checked the security system and found that someone opened the front door and the door to the balcony at night. The police that arrived at the specified address had to break down the front door since it was locked from the inside. Upon entering the apartment, the police immediately saw the blood, indicating that it was a crime scene. There was a body on the bed, covered with a blanket. Lifting the blanket, they saw a severely beaten woman. It was Christina Carlin Kraft, and unfortunately, she was already dead. There was no way to help her. There were signs of blows all over her body. Someone had broken her nose, and there was a strangulation mark on her neck. As it turned out later, someone strangled Christina with her sweatpants. As soon as they identified the victim, the detectives had to inform Alex, who was waiting outside, that his beloved was dead. This news came as a real shock to him. Since people closest to the victim are often involved in such cases, the police did not rule out the possibility that Alex could be the perpetrator. Christina and Alex have been together for a long time, and anything could happen between them. He was the one who called the police station and said he was worried about Christina, and then she was found dead. Both of these events may not have been a coincidence. Perhaps Alex did it to deflect suspicion from himself. The investigators offered the man to go with them to the police station because they wanted to ask him a few questions. Alex gave his consent without much hesitation. Alex told the investigators that he had to return to New York for work on August 21st. It was an urgent matter, and on August 22nd at 2:30 a.m., he called Christina to wish her good night, but she did not pick up. He knew that Christina never sleeps at this time and therefore began to worry. Alex called several more times, but there was no response. He checked the security system and discovered suspicious activity in the apartment at night. Therefore, he decided to postpone all business and return to Ardmore. After hearing his story, the police assumed that Alex wasn't the one who took the life of Christina. After all, he couldn't be in two places at once. His alibi checked out, and the police excluded him from the list of suspects. But who was responsible for Christina's death? Who could wish her harm? Based on the fact that 4 days before her death, Christina contacted the police and reported the robbery, investigators assumed that these two crimes were somehow connected. Thus, the main suspect in this case was Andre Melton, the man who stole valuables from Christina's apartment. Perhaps he decided to return to the apartment to steal something else, but his plan failed when Christina saw him. Maybe he found out that she had reported him to the police and decided to take revenge on her for it. On August 22nd, the day they found Christina's body, the police received an arrest warrant for Andre Melton. Investigators found out where he lived, but when they arrived there, Melton was gone. However, some of Christina's things were still there. The police managed to obtain surveillance video recorded on the night of the crime. It showed Christina leaving her apartment. Then, a few hours later, she returned with an unknown man. It was at 3:08 a.m. It wasn't Andre Melton, and it came as a surprise to the police. Further analysis of the recordings showed that the man with whom Christina returned to her apartment did not come back out. The police will later find an explanation for this. With the help of CCTV cameras on the streets of Ardmore, police officers found out that after leaving the apartment, Christina went to one of the bars in Philadelphia. Investigators went to the bar she was at to review the CCTV footage. It showed her meeting some man who later was hugging her. It was the same man she had returned to her apartment with. After Christina and her new friend left the bar, they got into a taxi. For the next few days, detectives collected data on all of Christina's movements on the day of her death. It was crucial to restore the chronology of events preceding the crime. The police immediately excluded Melton from the list of suspects since he was not with Christina that day. But what remained unknown was whether Christina's death was related to that robbery or whether it was just a coincidence. On August 25th, the police received another lead. Andrew Sanford, the taxi driver who drove Christina and the suspect that night, said that Christina and the man who accompanied her approached him. They didn't use the taxi app. After hearing the driver's price, they got into a taxi. According to Sanford, they were affectionate and sweet to each other, so they did not arouse any suspicions in him. Besides, the driver said that Christina took the initiative herself. When they arrived at the right place, it turned out that Christina had no cash with her. She offered to leave her credit card, but the taxi driver refused. Then, Christina's new friend offered him $100 on the condition that he would stay for 10-15 minutes near the house while the couple went to the apartment. Sanford left 20 minutes later, as neither Christina nor the man accompanying her returned. The couple entered the apartment around 3 a.m. An hour later, at 4 a.m., Christina called her cousin. She didn't say a word, but her cousin heard a man in the background telling Christina not to contact the police. The call ended before Christina's cousin could find out what happened. Why the cousin did not call 911 after what she heard remains unclear. Christina and Alex had door sensors in their apartment. It allowed the police to determine the time frame during which the crime occurred. The security system recorded the exact time of each door opening. As already mentioned, the first time someone opened the door was at 3:08 a.m. The next time was already at 5:10 a.m. The apartment was on the second floor. At about the same time, the system detected that someone opened the sliding glass door on the balcony. It explained why the surveillance cameras did not record the moment when the man whom Christina met at the bar left. After all, when the police arrived after Alex's call, no one except Christina was in the apartment. After learning this information, the police assumed the perpetrator jumped off the balcony. The next step was to seek help from the media. After posting the images from the surveillance cameras, they asked anyone who knew anything to share information. The pictures showed two people. The first was Andre Melton, and the second was the man who was at Christina's apartment on the night she died. Andre Melton, whose whereabouts detectives still couldn't figure out, called the police himself. He admitted that he stole some valuables from Christina, but denied that he was involved in her death. The police were puzzled by this call. They have not yet been able to confirm or refute the connection between the two events that happened to Christina. Maybe this was just part of the plan of the two suspects. Melton was not going to surrender to the authorities. He called the police only to declare he wasn't involved in Christina's death. Soon after, on August 26th, the police station received an anonymous call. The man who called said he knew one of the suspects depicted in the pictures released by the police. "We shared a room in a psychiatric clinic in Philadelphia," he said. As it turned out, not so long ago, the suspect chased a woman in Love Park, Philadelphia. He followed her into the building of the local family court and started molesting her. Then he began to behave aggressively, shouting and destroying everything around him. The man had to spend 72 hours in a psychiatric hospital. The only problem was that he was admitted to the hospital without a name because no one wanted to deal with a not particularly dangerous person. The identity of the man remained a mystery to the police. But then the police heard even more crucial information. According to the caller, the suspect was proud that he had recently strangled a woman, and he felt great satisfaction and pleasure because of this. After hearing this, the investigators believed that it was most certainly the man who took the life of Christina Carlin Craft. Later, the police station received another call. The man turned out to be a relative of the suspect from Philadelphia. He said that the name of the man in the photo was Jonathan Wesley Harris. He had previously served a prison sentence for robbery. Jonathan became a free man on July 15th, 5 weeks before Christina's death. After studying the entire biography of the man, it became clear that Andre Melton and Jonathan Harris had never crossed paths and were not familiar with each other. Therefore, the police ruled out the possibility of a connection between the two crimes. In addition, the police now had access to the messages Harris sent from his phone. On August 22nd, he texted a friend that he had met an attractive woman and was going to her apartment with her. On August 28th, the police received an arrest warrant for Jonathan Harris. It was crucial to detain him as soon as possible. No one knew what else he could do. It wasn't an easy task since Harris left no trace. However, when investigators contacted Jonathan Harris's sister on August 29, 2018, she said he had recently bought a bus ticket to Pittsburgh. As it turned out, Jonathan was already on the bus when the conversation occurred. The Ardmore police couldn't do anything. The officers wouldn't be able to catch up with him. The Pittsburgh police were their last hope. It was crucial to be in the right place at the right time. The police investigating Christina's death contacted Pittsburgh Law Enforcement Agency and asked for help. They told them the exact time of the bus's arrival in Pittsburgh and sent a photo of Harris. The fugitive task force set up an ambush, blocking all escape routes, and was ready to arrest the suspect at any moment. Soon, one of the employees noticed the bus approaching. They gave Harris time to calmly get off the bus so that he would not panic and take no action. About 10 minutes later, a policeman blocked his way. I saw his eyes darting. He was looking for an escape route, but it was too late, a Pittsburgh police officer later recalled. When the officer asked Harris to introduce himself, the latter gave a different name. He was arrested and taken to the police station. Detectives from Philadelphia came to Pittsburgh to interrogate him. They asked Harris to tell them everything that happened the night he met Christina. He said he had seen her several times in bars and nightclubs in Philadelphia. Christina Carlin Craft missed the New York life. Such an abrupt change in life rhythm and environment influenced her. She often went to bars, cafes, and nightclubs, but she was always alone since Alex was constantly working, and she had not yet managed to make new friends. And of course, men at those bars and nightclubs often approached her because they saw she was alone. Harris was no exception. He said he was under the influence of illegal substances and alcohol that night. He met Christina, they chatted a little, had a drink, and she offered to go to her place. Harris claimed that Christina wanted to buy a banned substance from him. When they arrived, he asked the taxi driver to wait until he returned. He wasn't going to stay there. He stated they drank several bottles of wine together, entered into an intimate relationship by mutual consent, and used a prohibited substance, after which he told her to pay him $1,200. Christina refused to pay. It made him angry because he needed the money. They started quarreling about it. He said that Christina hit him with a bottle of wine, and the situation got out of control. In response, he hit her in the face, and she fell to the floor. When she tried to call 911, he started strangling her with sweatpants until she completely lost consciousness. Yet, there were several inconsistencies in his story. During a toxicological examination, the experts found no traces of prohibited substances in Christina's body. There was only alcohol. In addition, the suspect's statement that he hit Christina only once was also untrue. That meant Harris was lying. When the detectives informed him of the results of the toxicological examination, he admitted that he had lied. At first, he tried to convince detectives that he was not involved in her death because she was completely fine when he left her apartment. But at one of the following interrogations, he fully admitted his guilt. "I panicked. She was still breathing when I left. I covered her with a blanket because I didn't want to see her like this. I knew I had severely beaten her." In the end, Jonathan Harris confessed to detectives that he took Christina's life and then jumped off the balcony to avoid getting caught on camera. When the trial began, Harris, like many other criminals who confessed to crime, declared that he was not guilty. However, the investigators did a lot of work, and there was plenty of evidence for Harris and his lawyer to lose. They expected the court to sentence him to 22 to 40 years for the third-degree life deprivation and tried to avoid life imprisonment. However, the amount of evidence the prosecutors had easily convinced the court that it was an intentional crime. During the trial, the court heard the testimony of the man who shared a room in a psychiatric clinic with Harris. It was the same man who called the police earlier. He stated that Jonathan Harris had previously confessed to him of the crime by saying, "There is nothing like squeezing somebody and feeling the last breath leave their body." Christina's death had an unimaginable impact on her family. Everyone was furious at the way Christina was presented in the media. Harris lied about her taking illegal substances. After the trial, Christina's stepmother said, "She was the absolute light in this world, and he extinguished it." According to her father, Christina was a good person with a kind heart who made everything brighter. In August 2019, Judge William R. Carpenter sentenced Jonathan Wesley Harris, 30, to life in prison without the possibility of parole and gave Harris an additional sentence of 22 to 45 years behind bars. The judge tacked on the additional decades to send a message to future governors or pardon boards who might consider freeing him. When the judge announced the verdict, Alex Ciccatelli turned to Harris and said, "You're a coward. You strangled a petite woman weaker than you. Not only did you take my fiancé's life, but you muddied her name. You lied that she was using illegal substances." In December 2018, the police arrested Andre Melton in Philadelphia and charged him with the robbery of Christina Carlin Craft's apartment. In March 2020, the court sentenced him to 1 to 4 years. The judge also ordered Melton to complete 3 years consecutive probation, meaning Melton will be under court supervision for a total of 7 years. I would like to apologize to the family for any grief or pain that I caused. I am not the bad person like the district attorney is trying to make me out to be, Melton said before learning his fate.